Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today are actually two best of 3 series that these pro gamers recently played in the GSL Code S. I did see the other games that were played that day, but I haven't seen these two series, so I'm excited to find out exactly what ended up going down. Spotting right here in the top right hand corner in game number 1 of our first best of 3 series, we have none other than Sue. By the way, in game number 1 we're on Crimson Court. Pretty uncommon best of 3 map number 1 type of map. Anyways, his opponent in the opposite corner, the man who I know a lot of you are massive fans of. We have the Gumi God himself. We're looking, of course, at GuMiho's main command center. Now, most of the time, whenever I cast a GuMiho series, it is GuMiho who is goofing around quite a bit. But in the games that I've seen Sue play recently, I mean, obviously he's good. He managed to qualify for the GSL Code S, but he seems to be playing very cheesy. Load of roach rushes, a lot of queen pushes, a lot of shenanigans in general. So, even though I haven't seen the games, I think we should probably keep an eye out on what Sue is going to be doing, more so than what GuMiho is planning on. Already, a gasless opener here for the time being, although, okay. It's just a Sue move, apparently. We're gonna go for a hatch into a pool into eventually a gas. Normally, it's hatch into gas into pool. A Suerism. Can we call it that? I think that'll be okay. Anyways, of course, this is also the GSL Code S, the most prestigious tournament over in South Korea, so even though GuMiho can be a bit of a jokester sometimes, and even though he's certainly not afraid to do whatever, this is also one of those events that he is going to be taking very seriously, and quite frequently, actually, in the modern day and age, he does play just straight up StarCraft 2. Looks like it's going to be a Reaper opener here for our Terran player for now. I do know, by the way, who ends up winning the first series. I'm not sure about the second one, so we'll have to find out together. The reason, by the way, that they played against each other twice in one day is because of the format they use in the GSL. Where they have like 2 games. So basically it's a 4-man group. 2 players play against each other, and then the other 2 also play against one another. Ooh, almost getting a drone there. That would have been quite sloppy. Anyways, then they have the winners playing against each other, then they have the losers playing against each other, and then they also have the winner of the losers match playing against the loser of the winners match. There you go. That makes sense, right? That makes sense in my head. Maybe a little bit confusing, but basically what I'm saying is the format sometimes allows you to play the same person twice in one day. Triple CC opener right here for the Gumi God. Whereas in the meantime, Sue is opening up with a 2-base build? A 2-base build. He's all the way up to 200 gas now. Sue, what are you doing? So, normal, obviously. Normally here as a Zerg player, you go first 100 gas into link speed. If you want to go for a quick lair, usually you build the lair as soon as queen number 3 and 4 spawn. Okay, we're just going to build it right now. 3 minutes and 15-ish seconds is when we just fire that up. That seems like a very random timing. I'm honestly not sure what we're doing with all this gas. Like, obviously the gas geyser was quite late. Now we're gonna take more gas. Is this a roach warren? Are we gonna do like a roach flood? I think that's what it has to be. Maybe a roach flood with like queens or something? A bit funky for sure. Great scout here coming in for Gumi. He's gonna see the lair. I think that's a fake link speed. Very strange timing to fake link speed too. Unless he wants to go for a link flood on the back of it? No, it might not be fake. Huh? Link speed is one of those upgrades that is surprisingly slow. So when you don't get it early on, it actually doesn't really line up with anything. I think he just wants to go for a bit of a link flood after making a bunch of roaches. That's the only thing that makes sense in my mind. Killing an overlord is actually really good. Reaper goes back in, checks whether or not the upgrade gets cancelled, doesn't see too much, but sees that there is no spire at least hiding behind the main mineral line. Roach speed starts up. Okay. In the meantime, on the side of the Terran, we've got ourselves a pretty standard opener, all things considered. It's going to be Hellions together with Banshees here for now. Marine transition also coming up, so nothing all too weird. I mean, we only have 2 Hellions here in total, so maybe that's the main thing to know, or that makes it worth noting. But we don't have a 3rd hatchery for the Zerg player, so he has to get something done here soon. Or soon. Okay, no, sorry. Sorry, I apologize. Really, we're just gonna take a third base now. Sue, what are we doing? So one of the nice things of the GSL, and one of the reasons why many people consider it to be the best tournament out there, is that you know who you're gonna be facing in advance. You have time to prepare for your opponent. It's not like you're just randomly playing against people. It's very different than a weekend tournament format. You have time to study your opponent, to figure out their tendencies, and to maybe find holes in their play. So this is not something that Sue is just throwing out there. It makes no sense. I think this is just a roach all-in. That's basically what it comes down to. This needs to do a significant amount of damage, because the problem is that third CC has been up for ages. Even killing, like, I don't know, 20 workers would not necessarily give Sue a massive lead, because mules are pretty good. Okay, well, here we go. One of the strangest early game attacks I've ever seen. It might just work, though. Yeah, you can tell that GuMiho is also thoroughly confused, because if he knew what was going on, there's no way he would be loading. Look at him. He's going for a missile turret. He's expecting 2-base Muta. That's the only thing that makes sense here, and that's what it looks like. Otherwise, he would have never flown that third CC down towards the low ground. I mean, I said 20 SCVs. At this rate, he may be able to get that. The Banshee does show up. There's an Overseer, too. Queens cannot transfuse off creep, but the Banshee goes down. Sue, what in the world is this? Well, that siege tank is also super dead. I thought 20 SCVs would actually be okay. I was exaggerating a little bit. 30 SCVs becomes, yeah, pretty bad. And then in the meantime, we've got drones on the back of this, so Sue is actually droning up that rich base. I've kind of missed this playstyle. So when Sue went off to the military, nobody was really playing like this. He's been incredibly successful throughout his career, so just having a quick little peek. Yeah, he's got $625,000 in tournament earnings, which is certainly very significant. Most of that money, by the way, is him getting second places, which is a little sad, but Sue historically has been notorious for getting second place in many, many, many tournaments. Not coming in clutch for anything. Yeah, his nickname is the Angry Zerg. I haven't heard a lot of people call him that in recent years, but Angry Zerg is a pretty great description of what we're seeing here. GuMiho coming in. Actually getting a good bit of damage done. Roach is obviously slow. These are also not really upgraded roaches at all. We're only just now going into the 1-1 research. Very late. Fourth hatchery is going to start up here. Will it finish? I think he should be able to finish it. I mean, if he stimped, there was a chance to actually, yeah, get some significant damage down, but I think this will just be another follow-up. Sue actually sitting at 69 workers, and that's apparently where he's calling it quits. Nice! Sorry, I had to do that. It's in my contract with myself. I can't just let that, okay, anyways, he's just going 69 drones and then mass unit production again. I think we're gonna eventually just go for like a 1-1 timing attack, although that feels really strange. Love the fact here that GuMiho is not sieging up. I think that's actually the right play. Slowly sieging, waiting until the corrosive balls are on cooldown, but the Angry Zerg is pushing through this. GuMiho has been rebuilding his workers quite nicely. He's pumping out 9 Marines at once. So weird, right? So strange. And somehow it works. Surprisingly well, too. It kind of feels like one of those builds that could have been refined a little bit more, though, because Sue really didn't need to take that gas so early. Marines and siege tanks once again coming in through, but I just don't think there's enough Terran here. And at this point, the Zerg economy has kicked in. I don't see how he's going to be able to follow this up with much of anything. GuMiho, that is. Unless Sue lets his foot off the gas, it's going to be very difficult for GuMiho to recover. So the reason this worked is because Sue made it look like it was a 2-base Muta opener. a very aggressive 2-base Muta opener too, where he delayed link speed. So you can see that the spawning pool is researching. So when that Reaper came in, it saw the spawning pool researching, it saw the timing of the lair. It didn't see the Spire. But you know, when there's smoke, there's fire. It made sense that, ooh, I accidentally became a rep god. There you go. Didn't see the Spire, but when there's smoke, there's... Anyway, check out my SoundCloud. Do people still use SoundCloud? I don't know. Anyways, he sold this build like it was a 2-base Muta play. This base is very important. Su right now, though, just so far ahead when it comes to the supply count. 18 additional roaches coming up. There we go. It's going to be the Zerg who wins game number 1. Alrighty. Game number 2. We find ourselves on site Delta. Interesting map number 1. I'm a little surprised we saw Crimson Court for the first map of the series. I think that may also be due to the strategy that Su was playing, that he figured he could maybe hide a third base or fake that he was going to go for a third base on the right side of the map, because obviously you have those golden mineral fields, but usually Crimson Court is a veto in a best of 3. And to see it as game number 1, it's just a little strange. I don't really know what the win-loss ratio is, actually. Let me have a look. Crimson Court. I don't think it's too bad for Zerg, is it? Maybe it is, actually. Oh yeah, no, it's pretty dang bad. Apparently for the Terran versus Zerg matchup, of all of the tournament games that have been played, Crimson Court has a 65% win rate for Terran versus Zerg. That is heavily, heavily in favor of the Terran. And interestingly enough, against Protoss, Zerg only wins 37% of the games. So, terrible map for Zerg overall. And apparently, Su wants to play it as a game number 1. And then he wins on it too. That is certainly GuMiho's map pick, I would imagine. It would be a real power play if Su is the one that picks Crimson Court. Crimson Court is game number 1. Dynasty is game number 2. Su with the 200 IQ decision making. Last time I checked, Dynasty has an 80% win rate for Terran versus Zerg. Not ideal. Not quite optimal. Alrighty. Reaper opener here once again for the Gumi God. Single gas in the main base. Reaper is going to be roaming the map at about the 2-minute mark. There it is. 202 usually at latest. That's at least the timing I always have in my head. 202. I don't know why. 202 Reaper is apparently late in 2024 execution terms. You would expect it to be out at 2 minutes and 1 second. Ay, 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 ay. Yeah, I don't recommend Crimson Court for the Terran versus Zerg matchup if you play Zerg. I also don't recommend the Crimson Court if you play the Darkest Dungeon. One of the worst DLCs I have ever played. Even though it's really fun, but also the absolute worst. It's one of those things it's really good for streaming, because your entire troop gets to, you know, die, and in Darkest Dungeon, you don't have a safe scum, like, method, so you just kind of lose your entire party. So you can lose, like, 30 plus hours of progress very easily, which is great for streaming, but not that great. Not that great, I don't think, for playing video games, if you want to have fun. It's kind of like World of Warcraft hardcore mode, where if your character dies, it just is not playable anymore. It's kind of like Diablo hardcore mode. I'm not a fan of playing that off stream. Nah, I think it's great for streaming, but for anything else, if your goal is to have fun, I think usually I would avoid hardcore mode, and I would avoid the Crimson Court expansion for Darkest Dungeon 2. I do recommend Darkest Dungeon though, really fun. Anyways, got a long playthrough of that up on the More Loco YouTube channel in case you're interested. That is youtube.com/moreloko. Highly recommend you go ahead and subscribe. Yeah. Imagine playing video games for fun. To be fair though, how many people out there play StarCraft 2 1 versus 1 for fun? I have seen many a gamer play StarCraft 2 1v1. Half of them are having a great time, the other half, usually a little angry. Depends on how you're working out, I guess. And yeah, whether or not you're winning. But you know what? Ooh, that's sloppy. Yeah, there's a couple of Hellions distracted apparently because there's a Zergling run by. You know what? If you're not enjoying playing 1v1 very much in StarCraft 2, you can just watch instead, you know? You could talk about the game instead. Yeah, you could be a backseat grandmaster. I think that's the real place to be. Much more conventional opener here by Sue. It's just going to be Link Speed, Baneling Nest coming up right now. Lair, okay. Usually you go Lair first and then into a Baneling Nest. But that's okay. Still a bunch of Lings waiting off the site. Waiting for their cue to run into the stage, apparently. Which is the natural expansion of the Terran. Who's playing a very slow and secure game here. Hellions together with Banshees. Into Stimpack. Nothing out of the ordinary. Oh, oof. Nicely done right here by GuMiho. I think that's about as much damage you can ever dream of in 2024. Rarely do you actually get work done like that. A couple SCVs are falling. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I don't usually love those Hellion dives because it just doesn't seem to work very well. 8 Hellions for 14 drones is absolute best case scenario. Remember in the early days of StarCraft, I don't know how long many of you have been watching for, but I remember in the early days of StarCraft 2, Terran players could literally run in with like 4 Hellions and consistently kill like 12 drones. For some reason, that was the meta for, in my mind, years. Terrans would just run in and kill a bunch of drones. And you're like, what? How did we... Huh? People were so much worse. Skill level has gone up for a very long time. At the pro level, that would happen all the time. Yeah. Looks like it's going to be Hydraling Bane, by the way, here from Sue. A surprisingly conventional style. The reason I think it's surprising is because Sue usually is not known for his late game unit compositions. He doesn't seem to enjoy playing Vipers, Infestors, Ultras, Brute Lords, Lurkers, none of that. And this is leading towards, well, at least one of those. At least usually you get Vipers and 3/3 Research, Adrenal Glands, that sort of thing. This is not really setting him up for any sort of real pushing power. Then she finally shows up, by the way, pretty late. 5 drones in total. It's been mostly used as a defensive tool for now. Zergling run by. Yeah, killing an SCV or 2. I mean, it's not bad. Considering 7 SCVs have gone down in total when normally we see 0, that really does add up. 1-1 finishing right now for the Terran. You can tell here that GuMiho is a little bit shaken after that first game in the series. Not quite enjoying it as much as he usually does. Su's a very tricky opponent. It's just a few Zerglings at a time. Look at him. Mass stimming all of the reinforcing Marines just to try and get rid of these couple of units. Push over here onto the creep. I don't love it. Way overextended. Loses the siege tank. Overstaying is welcome. And those 4 links actually created enough of a distraction for Sue to, yeah, clean that up. Now, normally this would be the point when Zerg starts up 2-2, where you go into a hive at latest. So I'm expecting 2-2 and then into an infestation pit. But this is, I'm not sure what Sue is currently favoring, because he rarely plays late game. Yeah, no infestation pit. It's 100 gas. Should be building right now, but it's not. So I think this is going to be like an extended mid game for the Zerg. Which seems pretty terrible in modern StarCraft, but something we've seen many times in the past. Another failed attack right here from Gumi. I don't think he needs to go this hard. Creep spread is looking quite good, by the way. Yeah, can't complain about that. Economy is looking solid. 85 drones really does give you swarming potential. Now, this is not to be underestimated, even though it's something we don't really very frequently see in 2024, it is still something that hasn't really gotten nerfed, I guess. I mean, the Baneling is a bit weaker. If GuMiho keeps on bleeding out units like he has been over the last couple minutes, he's gonna be in a world of trouble. His 2-2 is late as well, by the way. He should have started that one earlier. I didn't quite keep track of that, because I was busy looking up what Su was trying to do, but okay, there is the infestation pit. Strange timing on that. So in the past, whenever we would see Zerg players stick around on lair tech, it's because they had like a pretty rough early to mid game. This hasn't been the cleanest early to mid game for Su, but it's not like he can't afford going into... Oh, apparently we can even afford blowing up rocks with Banelings. Anyways, this is not a game where he can't afford the infestation pit and the hive, you know? It's just because he doesn't want to. Could have easily made it already. Very common for Zergs to take the hive by like minute 7 these days. Now the hive doesn't really line up with anything. So if you go infestation pit right when you start up 2-2, you can finish the infestation pit and the hive, so you can go straight into 3-3. Right now the hive is going to be quite a ways behind the 3-3 research. It's not the end of the world. He's just looking for opportunities, and he's found another one. Ooh. He's just gonna kill the command center itself? Sure. And this is all a result of GuMiho just losing too many units over the last couple minutes. Bleeding out a bit too much here and there. I would dare Su to do this. Oh my god. Against, for example, Clem or Maru, but apparently GuMiho did not expect this at all, as he loses 2-0 against Su. Our second best of 3. We find ourselves once again on site Delta. I am just scratching my head here. I'm pretty sure I've loaded the correct replay. Yeah, I have. Because obviously just now, Su spawned at the bottom of the map. And GuMiho spawned in the top. This is the second best of 3 that these two played that exact same day. Now that's actually kind of interesting. Because if you play a Premier Tournament and you play the same opponent twice and you once again play the same map, do you just hard counter what your opponent did last time around? Apparently Su is here to go for a spawning pool first this time around. Can imagine, by the way, GuMiho is not all too happy with the state of things. So in case you're unfamiliar with the other results, I guess I'll spoil this particular group. So this was a group that had Su, GuMiho, Raynor, and Hero in it. Raynor and Hero played against each other. Hero won 2-0. Su and GuMiho obviously played against each other. Su won the first series 2-0. That means that the losers match was GuMiho going up against Raynor. Raynor lost that series 0-2, which means that GuMiho is the winner of the losers match. In the meantime, Su had to play against Hero in the winners match, and he lost 2-0 against Hero. You still with me? So that means that Su is the loser of the winners match, and GuMiho is the winner of the losers match. And therefore, they played against each other a second time. There you go. I hope that makes sense. Anyways, super... Yeah, no, definitely take notes here. If you're a visual learner, that probably made absolutely no sense to you. Anyways, Roach Warren here. Super quickly for Su. Super quick. With double O. Second one capitalized. Little unfortunate, of course, for Raynor. Going over to Korea. Losing 0-4. I know it's been a very frustrating couple of days for him. Reaper is probably going to go all the way back home right now. Even though it hasn't seen what's going on, it should expect at least some follow-up aggression. But that's the real problem here for Terran. You never really know how much you're going to have to deal with, you know? Is it just going to be 6 links? This is not just 6 links, as we have a load of roaches coming across the map too. Finally, the Reaper man comes back. No link speed or anything like that. We're actually going 7 roaches. The good old 7 roach rush. Just a bit of a modern iteration, yeah. So now he's going into drones on the back of this. Usually you make 1 Ravager with this. So I'm assuming, yep, there we go. And then usually you go link speed with the next 100 gas. Unless the fight is really going well, If you feel like you can get a lot more value, you can also morph in a second Ravager. Let's see. I mean, there's not a lot of Terran available yet. Obviously, one thing, though, that Terrans do have in 2024 is that nice and easy Cyclone. And I think the Cyclone is going to be a really nice tool against this sort of thing. Unless the Zerg army just gets right on top of it. He wants to kill the depot to try and supply block the Terran immediately. Okay, Cyclone pops out. That's an important one. Okay, gets it to safety. Nicely done right there by Gumi. Ravager is running, but its little legs can't run fast enough. Su's really just trying to maximize DPS at this point. Yeah, maximize the damage, kill as many SCVs as possible if he has any choice. Dang, dude. Jeez. Nicely done here by the Drilly Boy himself. He shouted, "Get off my lawn," as he used his wrench. Insane. Kills a roach, no problem. Alrighty. Metabolic boost. Indeed, on the back it is. This is usually quite a slow follow-up from Zerg, so GuMiho should be able to breathe right now for a little bit. I've tried to breathe once myself. Can recommend. I started doing it one day and I've never stopped. Yeah. You can tell that this Terran Reaper, by the way, is dedicated to the Terran Dominion, because he's literally got the letter T engraved into his armor. Isn't that beautiful? Alrighty. Problem here, of course, for the Zerg is that it's quite tricky to secure the third base. So he's just going to try and sneak it out, but he doesn't really know exactly what is the follow-up right now from Gumi. Could have been mass Cyclone production, for example. Could have been a bunch of different stuff. Again, this is the GSL, so Gumi not really doing the GuMiho things that most people love to see him do. He's trying to actually just win the games. I know. Hasn't really worked out for him so far, but, you know, still. What is interesting, though, for this particular day of the GSL, no disrespect to Su whatsoever, but GuMiho played against Su, lost 0-2, and then he played against Raynor and he won 2-0. That's a weird exchange. I think everybody, including Su, would agree with me that Raynor is quite a bit better. But this is sometimes what happens in StarCraft, especially with this tournament format. Game's tough, man. Okay, he's gonna continue the aggression for a little bit longer. Link flood coming in. I don't think this is gonna happen, though, is it? Nah, I don't like this at all here for Su. That's a very big commitment. Banshee up in the air is gonna shut this down as well. Good targeting right here by the Gumi God. Repairs that with ease and keeps that wall alive. I was actually originally going to cast the Raynor versus GuMiho series because it's actually a really good set of games. But you guys probably know the running meme, right? According to Raynor, I only ever upload series of him losing. And I know that that particular series is a very painful one for him. So even though the games are really fun, I don't want to... No, I can't. I can't. No. If I do, then next time I gotta be like, please, sir, any replays? I'm never gonna get any replays ever again, okay? No, plus, I think that would just kind of mean. Raynor has said this on multiple occasions, though, to me, that I only ever upload series of him losing. I feel like that's not entirely true, but then I went back into the archives of my YouTube channel, and I realized, yeah, about 80% of the series where I feature Raynor, he ends up losing. Ay. I don't mean to be a jerk about it all. 1-1 research. I mean, I told him basically just don't, you know, this wouldn't be a problem if you just, you know. Anyways, maybe you should just win, you know, like 1-1 together with a Roach Feed coming up right here for Su. I don't think I love this position as much for him, though, as what we had in the previous set of games, because since that Roach push didn't really achieve that much, this now suddenly becomes a game where GuMiho has got the tempo advantage, and that's the first time we've seen that today. And it's so difficult to grab the advantage back when you're going up against the Terran who has the tempo lead. It's a bit difficult to quantify, but right now it's basically GuMiho who's got full map control and he can do whatever he likes. This is a bit of a dangerous attack though. If Roach Speed finishes, look at that Cyclone driving backwards. Wow. That was the coolest Cyclone in class. I'm gonna actually back up. I want to show you guys the Cyclone reverse. Look at this guy. You ready? This guy, he's the dude that your mom told you not to be friends with. Look at this guy. Look at him. You ready? Oh, dude. Just throwing it in reverse. Okay, he did have to, yeah, snap back to the next target as soon as a Zergling came up, but... Second factory coming up. Additional reactors added into the mix here as well in the barracks. 1-1 research here is coming. Do we have an armory? Please tell me we have an armory. We do have an armory. Fantastic. Love to see it. Zergling run by here again. I mean, this is something that GuMiho is taking way too much damage from. Way too much damage. Every game that I've seen him play here so far here today, it's been the little groups of Zerglings nibbling away at his SCVs. Now, these fights are amazing, though. Yeah, doesn't get much better for the Terran than this. Men with guns strikes again. Nicely done right here by the Gumi God. He dealt with the Ling run by over here too. There's a siege tank on the high ground, but sometimes that can be a bit of a curse. Because that siege tank will happily shoot at Zerglings, even if they're hugging SCVs. +2/+2 coming up. And that's of course usually where Terran is very happy. Su is not in a state here where he can really ever get 2-2 going. Or at least not if he doesn't get the 4th base up. I don't think he should be remaking it over here, to be honest. This is such a tricky location for the Zerg to take. He's got a lot of creep spread on the left side of the map, and the Terran army has been hovering around this section for a long while. When 2-2 finishes, I've got a feeling it's going to be basically the end for Su. One thing he could try and do is, I guess, make like an infestation pit and mix in like one infester. Fungal growth can sometimes take the wind out of the sails of the Terran, but GuMiho is doing a great job here, continuously harassing, and you know what? The base does finish. There is room inside of the plane, but apparently Jimmy did not order a taxi. Taxi! And then he died. Yeah, should have started shouting a little earlier. I think GuMiho is also making the assumption that this base is taken now on the left side of the map. It would make sense for the Zerg to double expand. The creep spread is looking really good, by the way, for Su. Every game I've seen him play here so far, for some reason, his creep is looking monstrous. Su just barely does not see this Terran set of dropships. GuMiho is happy to try and kill a base here, but he'll be even happier to note that there is no base. Here comes the Zerg swarm, though. Maybe he should have known about it a little bit sooner, because this is still a scary attack. Keep in mind that there's 20 supply worth of Terran units on the other side, which is quite significant. Second factory ends up going down. Alright, he's gonna go after the Evo chambers, but 2-2, like I said, never even began. 2-2 at this point for the Terran is finished, and that makes these units so much more powerful. GuMiho is so confident that during this, he starts up 3-3. I wonder if that's a little overconfident, but you can tell here that those upgrades have kicked in nicely. Jeez Louise. You know what? I take it back. He had the money for it. He couldn't spend it on troops, so he figured, you know what? I'll just start up the 3-3 in the middle of all of it. Matter of fact, drop goes around. And even though this is now a supply advantage here for Su, the game is still heavily in favor of Terran. Yeah, no reason to be too aggressive. I think what you could do here as Gumi is just sit back and max out. This is not a game where Zerg is going to finish 2-2 because you killed the Evos. This is not a game where Hive is going to be an issue because you've scouted the main base and you know there is no Hive. There's not an issue of infestors coming up. All you really need to do is just make as many of those powerful units as you can, and that's exactly what he's trying to do right now, and exactly what Su is trying to avoid. That means that Su is pushing into sieged-up tanks. Still a scary fight, though. Su has got a load of army. As a matter of fact, his army supply is still bigger than that of the Terran. Oh, Sue. Absolute madman. Angry Zerg has been triggered once again. There is, in the meantime, a drop up north. That one will be able to take care of a base. Fourth hatchery gets denied again. Siege tank on the high ground, shelling away at whatever it can hit. GuMiho still with a little too much money in the bank. Losing that second factory has been quite costly for him. But he did make 3 additional... Well, I think this seals the deal. He did make 3 additional barracks over here, and they're going to be able to pump out Marauders momentarily. Original plan for those, I'm sure, is to make Ghosts, but doesn't need them in this game. Okay. Scary moment right there for Gumi. That was much closer than I think a lot of us expected it to be. But Sue is still showing us that he is not to be underestimated. Now, when you commit into just Roach Ravager, just Lair Tech, no upgrades, no Banelings, no Bane Speed, none of that, you just go Roach Ravager, you can produce a surprising amount of Roach Ravager. When you don't spend like 1,000 minerals and 1,000 gas on things that aren't Roach Ravager, it turns out you can make a lot of stuff. Ultimately, though, when it goes for too long, it's a recipe for disaster. There is just really no way that you can contest with this Terran army. Yeah, these Marines are now 3-3, fully upgraded. Roach Ravager is still 1-1. It is not easy. Yeah, GG. Well played right here by GuMiho. Alrighty. Alcyone. Alcyone. LQ1. I'm gonna go with Alcyone. It's gonna be a double Rex opener right here by GuMiho. I fast forwarded to minute 1. Hatchery into a gas and a spawning pool here eventually as well for Sue. Let's see how he can deal with this more modern approach. This is one of those builds actually that a lot of Zerg players struggle with quite a bit, especially when they first complete their mandatory military service, it seems. Because this wasn't very popular like a year or 2 ago, but these days we see the double Rex opener all the time, and obviously Sue should have a lot of practice against it. One of the problems you run into in some of these games when you do go up against a double Rex opener like this one, and you for example delay your link speed, or you go for any of these weird builds that Sue has been going for so far, you can just straight up lose. Luckily for him, that's not the case here. He is, yeah, playing a very normal game. Not a ton of gas just yet, but he should be able to get that link speed going in a reasonable time. He should be able to hide a drone over at the 3rd base location too. I would prefer to see him start up the link speed first. Yeah, that's what he does. Because that's usually your main limiting factor here. It's your main bottleneck. Okay, let's see. It's time to dance. GuMiho is wearing his tutu. He's got his dancing shoes on. GuMiho and Sue are at the silent disco, where they only play Terran 2. Bit of a banger, to be honest. I would probably go to clubs a little bit more frequently. I'm not a great dancer, but if that's the type of music they play, yeah, I'll be on my feet. So this is actually not the 3 Reaper variant, this is the 5 Reaper variant. Something that Bjorn likes to play a lot, and this is exactly why link speed is a very helpful tool. That base is actually dead. He's not gonna be able to stop that. Where's Reaper number 5? Ah. Yeah, no, that base is dead. Nicely done right here by Gumi. Immediately starting up with a tempo lead. We do have a cheeky Overlord over here on the right. Whenever it's this far to the right, I always think about Nidus Worms. Because this is like, it's really hidden, it's really early. It's very easy for Terran to find at this point, but it's just something to keep in the back of your mind, I guess. Haven't seen the game, don't really know what he goes for, but that always screams Nidus Worm at me. Okay, now we're getting a little overly ambitious. There are links with speed done, but I guess we can always go down to the low ground. Ooh, good grenade. We'll go down to the low ground. Alright. Brenda lives. Only downside with this opener is that it always leads towards bio. You can't really go double Rex into mech very easily. I mean, if anybody could make it work, I guess it'd be Gumi, but not usually what you do. So it's quite predictable. There are a lot of weird follow-ups though, so this is actually a triple Rex variation. Usually that's not what you would go for. Normally you would go into Medivacs and all that, but this is a delayed Medivac in favor of a faster third Rex. One thing we've seen deal a lot of damage over the last couple of weeks is Terran's going double Rex into Banshee, which feels really weird. But this should be, yeah, a reactor together with a starport. Okay. I don't think you can really do too much with this army right now, but GuMiho is going to test the waters. I think we're just flying in the Overlord for scouting purposes. Yep. Su wants to get a little peek of the Terran's base. Stimpack is done. Combat shields and 1-1 on the horizon. Far, far away on the horizon, though. So getting these units surrounded kind of sucks, but this is obviously a good map where you can just chill on the watchtower. The Zerglings would have to run in single file, which is quite suboptimal. Su scouts and sees roughly what's going on, but doesn't get too much intel. Decides to go into a lair. He has only gone for a single Evo chamber, by the way, and he's prioritizing Carapace. Okay. Single Evo chamber Zerg builds are always funky to me. I don't think I love it. Especially since Su has the gas to afford a second upgrade, so what's the point? I guess when he started up the Evo chamber upgrades, he didn't, but... Or upgrade, rather, but... Okay. Medivacs are finally out. Nice thing, of course, for GuMiho is that any sort of attack that the Zerg would have wanted to go for usually would hit after link speed would have finished. And it's much easier to hold any sort of timing attack with Stimpack. Turns out having units that deal more damage is better than having units that deal less damage. But seriously though, Stimpack is a really nice upgrade for holding any sort of push. Creep Tumor spreads in the direction and should give him at least a heads up. There are a lot of lings available, but Banelink speed obviously is not yet done. +2 armor coming up as well for Su. Still just a single Evo. Here come the ladies. Zergling counterattack in the meantime. I don't think this is enough, is it? Oh, maybe. Yeah, you know what? With that service area, it's not so bad. But you can tell here that the lings just don't deal as much damage as they're normally, quote-unquote, supposed to. Matter of fact, drop in the main base. Goes after the spawning pool. I actually love the targeting on the spawning pool. I think he can finish that. Oh, it's an absolute bloodbath here. Su did already remake the spawning pool. Still in the main base. But yeah. Having that one upgrade advantage really makes a massive difference. So those Terran Marines just don't take nearly as much damage as they normally would. The way damage is calculated in StarCraft 2 is you take the base damage of a unit plus upgrades, right? And then minus the base armor of the unit that's being attacked, and then minus any armor upgrades. Basically what this comes down to is that Su's units don't deal nearly as much damage just because of that +1 research that they're lacking. GuMiho certainly will have clicked on one of those links at this point, and he will have picked up on it. He's gonna go into Widow Mines. Okay. +2/+2 together with Drilling Claws. Second factory coming up. We'll probably see a reactor on that one. Widow Mines, of course, did go through a series of nerfs recently. Not quite as popular anymore. Still very good, though. Terran players have been throwing a bit of a tantrum. They're like, oh, you nerfed my Widow Mines? Then I'm never gonna use them ever again. That usually happens whenever StarCraft 2 units get nerfed. That's what I picture it sounds like anyways. That's what I sound like whenever they nerf any of the units that I like. Oh, careful, careful, Gumi. Woo, big move command there. Big move command. And that is suddenly gonna allow Su to take control of that fight. Wow, that was actually a very significant error. In the meantime, he's still got half of his units on the other side of the map too. Multiple control groups with just Lings and Banes. 4th Command Center flying on over in that direction, but donating a bunch of units like that is... Sorry, what did we just kill? I have to back up. Whoa, we're way back. Why are we this far back? He just killed one of his own units. Okay, so this is where he cleaned up those units, right over here at the front. Something died. The medevac? Okay. Treason must have been detected. Yeah. Not from the supply depot, but the punishment for treason in GuMiho's army is death. GuMiho rules with an iron fist. He may be known as the Towel Terran, which is kind of a cutesy nickname, but that is not how the man behaves in game at all. You disobey one order, boom. Gun down. Immediate firing squad right there, man. Ay, ay, ay. Poor medevac. One really nice thing here, though, for Gumi is that his upgrades are just so much better than that of the Zerg. So finally, we have a second evolution chamber here for Su. Super late on that one. He is going to be able to get up to his decent late-game upgrades eventually, but it's going to take a while. Su is actually playing some stellar StarCraft here, though, as far as, like, playing the macro game goes. In my mind, he's a bit of a cheesy boy right now, but this is not a very cheesy match. Actually, this second series that they're playing is far less cheesy in general. Still very, very Su-like. Still certainly just playing a very swarmy approach, not going into lurkers or spellcasters or anything like that. Just straightforward unit production. But he's making it work against one of the world's greatest Terrans. Now, maybe you can actually have changeling medevacs in 2024. I tend to stay on top of all of the patch notes, and I have read the patch notes for every patch over the last, well, decade and a half. But maybe they just added, like, changeling medevacs or something like that. That would explain a lot. Big Zergling, Hydra, yeah, there's just a massive army here on the right side of the map. Sensor Tower, though, doing a great job. Spotting that army from a mile away, and, well, honestly, there's nowhere for them to go anyways. All of those choke points are still in effect. I think what Su is basically trying to do is create, like, a soft contain on the Terran. Allow them 4 bases, but no more than that. Now, fighting off creep? Really, Su? I hate everything about this fight. Why? That just seems unnecessary. Like, you've spread so much creep around the map. None of your bases are really under a lot of pressure. Why fight off creep? I guess he saw an opportunity. Would you look at this? Wow. That looks surprisingly like a late game unit. A lurker then. On the horizon here for Su. Building armor at the same time together with high-sec auto tracking. Again, another fight off creep. Usually this is really good for Terrans. Nice splits right here though by Su. He's actually coming cruising in right now. Yeah, Su doesn't wait for upgrades if he doesn't need it. He looks at an opportunity and then he immediately strikes. And this is what he's been doing for a very long time. Yeah, StarCraft is not an Excel spreadsheet, man. It's a very complex game. And even though I'm not really seeing the opportunity that Su saw there, GG is cold. Look at that. Very well done right there by the Zerg. Our final game for today takes place on Dynasty. So first we let Crimson Court slip through the cracks, and now Dynasty? Okay, so this is one of the best maps for Terran. At the very least against Zerg. Let me try and look up the stats real quick as to where it's at currently, because last time I had a look at those, it was an 80% win rate for Terran versus Zerg. That only takes into consideration games played at the tournament level. Yeah, so it hasn't changed much. Right now it's at 80.8% in favor of Terran versus Zerg. This map is really, really bad for Zerg. Unless Su has got something special in mind, I don't see why he would let this one slip through the cracks. That's crazy. Sometimes, right, a map may be considered to be quite bad, but in your own games you don't feel like that is really the case, and it's fine, I guess? But we have a 9-map map pool. It's not like you really have to dig deep in order to find a map that is not heavily in favor of your opponent's race. Sometimes your own gut instinct may just have to be pushed away for a little bit if you look at the actual stats. 80% is nuts. I don't even remember the last time I've seen a map that has an 80% advantage for one race. Now, obviously, since the stats do seem to be quite lopsided, there's not a huge sample size of games, but I don't see why you would want to play this one if you don't need to. So, this is the map, of course, with the in-base golden expansion that has a rich Vespian Geyser on the one side, a regular Vespian Geyser on the other. I love this map, by the way. Last time I saw a Terran versus Zerg on this map was Mio Micah going up against XY. One of the absolute dumbest games of StarCraft I've ever seen. That's the only way I can describe it, okay? Mio Micah going for about 200 Hydralisks, XY going up for about 50 Battlecruisers. My god. One of the lowest high-level games I've ever seen. Very fun, though. Easily one of my favorites. I will post a link to that match, if I don't forget, down below in the description of this video. Because that was... that was spectacular. I do recommend you go check it out after this particular series, but that was really a crazy match. So look at this. GuMiho actually going for a triple CC opener, but he's building both locations. So he's got one over in the in-base expo, one over on the low ground here too. This is not a build where Su is really punishing him for anything. He just went 100 gas. He just went for the metabolic boost. How in the world are you gonna stop a Terran from getting an advantage here, Su? I don't see it happening. These golden minerals are insanely good. For the time being, at least, Zerg is gonna be able to get a nice little advantage, but immediately, and this is before those extra mules kick in, the golden minerals are giving GuMiho a nice little advantage. Now, it is important not to overestimate, I guess, how good these golden minerals are. They return 7 minerals a trip rather than a conventional 5. So, it's better, but not by a super significant margin. Plus, golden minerals only come in sets of 6, usually, whereas a regular base has 8 mineral fields. So, ultimately, you get a similar income, but with less workers. Which is something that GuMiho will be, yeah, happy about. Means he can saturate this other mineral line a little bit faster. He's playing Hellion Banshee. Tried and true strat. Generally doesn't have any particular weaknesses if you micro everything well. Now, we have seen GuMiho lose a bunch of workers unnecessarily so far in this series, but on this map, there's really only one area that he now has to worry about, because there's no ranged units for the Zerg. It's just going to be, yeah, a bunch of Zerglings, and it can't do much from this side of the wall. Not at least until the mineral fields are mined out, which is a long while away. Okay, so Su basically displaying this like it would be any other map, but just a map where you give your opponent a free gold base, and there's a lot more choke points where the Terran can deal splash damage. I don't see what the advantage here for Su is. Okay, it's Lair into double Evo. I'm assuming we're gonna see a Baneling Nest right about right now. Extra gas is coming up too. It's a Roach Warren instead. Okay. That makes a little bit more sense, I guess. Still don't like this though. Blind Spore Crawler's coming up because he does not know what he's playing against. Other than the in-base expansion, he hasn't seen much. So this should counter any sort of Banshee play, but I think this Banshee was really just made in case the Zerg decided to be aggressive. Yeah. There's little teeth right here on the front of the Banshee just to eat up any roaches that might get dangerously close. This is a early game roach counter, I guess. Okay, well, there's Stimpack coming up. 1-1 research. 1-1 as well on the other side of the map. I guess Su is left to his own for quite a while here. I'm surprised he took the third base over here. Because if you take it over on this side instead, you can take the rich Vespian geyser with the golden minerals. If you expand down south, I mean, eventually, I guess you can take this as like a sixth. But, yeah, I don't love this. I don't love this for the Zerg. Just seems like a weird set of choices. Then again, this is the GSL. Players generally think about these matches for a very long time before they actually get played. And Su can be a bit of a trickster. Just him picking this map, picking a map like Crimson Court earlier as well, may very well just already put question marks in GuMiho's head, you know? Where GuMiho is thinking, yo, if you want to play this, fine, but you've got something weird prepared, right? Right? You've got... and then nothing really comes? I mean, now it's, I guess, a 66 drone push with a 4th hatch on the back of it. 66 drones, 1-1 research with roach speed. It is gonna walk right into a Terran army, though, that is done with 1-1 research. Stimpack will be finished. Great timings right here for Gumi. He doesn't have combat shields yet. That'll be a little while away, but he's gonna have a lot of stuff. I think siege tank play on this map is the only thing that really makes sense. GuMiho should not be moving out right now. This is probably the worst timing for him to be moving out. Oh, he wants to take control of the high ground. The Reaper has been dreamily staring off into the distance for a while now. Yeah, I love this drop though. I think the siege tank might be a little overly zealous, but I think going for the drop is really quite clever. Because it's difficult right now for Zerg to move out when you know that there's a threat of just a crazy amount of roaches. Or sorry, when you know there's a threat rather of a crazy amount of marines, but he has been making a lot of roaches. Planetary Fortress not yet done. Su needs to deal significant amounts of damage here. He does not have high ground vision, so this siege tank over here can't actually be killed. Banshee from the early game still available. Marines from the south will be happy to engage this. If the Planetary Fortress finishes, this is going to be so tough for the Zerg player to break. Queen's showing up right now as well, though. Planetary's not yet done. I think he is going to be able to finish it, but it will probably get sniped immediately. Yeah, okay. He could have finished it if he decided to keep it around. Corrosive Biles tried to kill the CC, but that did not happen. One mule over here, thinking about life. Ambitious play to try and snipe down a Banshee. Queen's coming from a mile away. Su right now grabs a massive supply lead. I still don't love this, though. Okay, there's the Stimpack. 2-2 research, by the way, for Terran on the horizon. Su effectively needs to kill his opponent with this attack, and it is a scary amount of Zerg. Okay, well, that bile was unnecessary. But we do have double siege tank production at this point in the game. Queen show up. Okay. Yeah. You know what? Su may have actually just done it. This is... this is just... let me get this straight. This is just a 1-1 roach speed timing attack. That's all it is. This is literally the oldest Zerg timing attack that players came up with in about 2010. Now, then it was played a little differently. There weren't Ravagers. You wouldn't bring the Queens. You wouldn't usually have a third base either, so it does feel a little funky. GuMiho once again, though, feeling confident. Look at him. He did this earlier in the series, too. Fires up 3-3 in the middle of all of this. Okay, 13 additional roaches. 2-2 research on the back of this, too, here for the Zerg. Ah, the upgrades are so nice. The upgrades make such a massive difference. Absolute bloodbath. So, where are we at? 27 SCVs skilled. 4 Command Center Terran, though. I'm a little surprised he hasn't been remaking workers during all of this. He's not actually powering up any additional SCVs here. So even though he does have 4 CC, he is not making any additional space construction vehicles. Su getting a changeling over here in the middle of his army. I think this is actually GuMiho now turning this into an all-in, which is a little risky. Here's once again a massive amount of Zerg, though, showing up. Creep spread looking ridiculous here for Su. Okay, Corrosive Balls will get rid of one of the tanks. I think GuMiho is basically just looking to finish up 3-3 and stay alive. Planetary Fortress will finish up this time around. Is there enough? I think there is. Yeah. I think GuMiho is going to be able to hold on easy peasy here. Even though that looks very scary. Planetary putting in a nice bit of splash damage. Still not adding on SCVs though. We're waiting. The clock is ticking. GuMiho is waiting until... Oh, there we go. Now he finally fires up some new ones. Yeah, I think he wants to turn this into an all-in, but he also knows it's going to be a long way onto the creep. So making a few SCVs on the back of this, I don't mind. Army now for the Terran, by the way, is getting really large. At this point in time, the upgrades are even. Planetary Fortress helping out as well. Great anchor here for Su to attack into, I guess, but even better for GuMiho to fall back to. Okay. He wants to go for a drop, but that is risky. Yeah. I think a sensor tower is not a bad choice. Oh, Corrosive Balls do connect with both the siege tank as well as a medevac. This is, though, when those Terran Marines are at their absolute strongest. 2 entire upgrades ahead adds up so quick. Su has got so much on the other side. Man, imagine if he actually transitioned towards something else at some point. I would love to see him going into lurkers here. I think a lurker follow-up would be almost like a no-brainer. But we're just going into Rogue Ravager. And I don't mind it. I think he's in a decent spot here. I mean, if you look at the supply count, it looks really good for him. But I also think it's a little deceptive. Because this unit composition is, you know, it's got an expiration date. This is that milk in the fridge that is already like 2 days overdue. And you're like, I don't know, man. 1 day probably fine. 2 days, I'm not so sure. Let's see. Planetary Fortress getting a mass repair again. Siege tank on the high ground. The Zerg Swarm once again with a near 80 supply advantage. Planetary Fortress ends up going down. In the meantime, though, there is a Marauder drop up north. Why are the Marauders here? I think we probably want to be dropping Marines instead. But anyways, Marauders at home would have been incredibly useful. Planetary Fortress is gone. Siege tanks and all the other Terran reinforcements are going to have to go into the main base. Well, they are making quick work right here of the hatch. Any roaches that have popped out over there too. This siege tank, okay, will get sniped, but at least it's taking up a bunch of those biles. 36 additional SCVs go down. $27 SCVs remain in total. 36 of them have just fallen, but GuMiho has got an army now, and he has killed most of the Zerg. There's still a lot remaining, though. Interestingly enough, after all those losses from Su, he still does have a lot more stuff. Right now, he wants to just play defensively. He's found himself with a massive supply lead. I think he's getting it done. Oh my god, he's actually getting it done. Yeah, I think it's a great example, though, of a set of games where we believe in 2024 that the game is well figured out, right? That we all know how the game is supposed to be played. This is Su not playing the way the game is, quote-unquote, supposed to be played. It makes me very uncomfortable. But I think he's just making it work here. +1 melee starts up. Su really allergic to lurkers. Imagine if he had lurkers right now. Seriously. Imagine like 2 lurkers over here. He could have easily had it. He's had money in the bank. He's had time. Instead, we're going +1 melee. Sometimes Su's refusal to play late game does really bite him in the butt a little bit, though. Because GuMiho is now starting to run some circles around it. Still pretty much doubled in supply. Command center on the low ground is going to get biled down at this rate. SCVs sneak into the main. The entire Terran army is right now in the main base, by the way. Okay, it's going to split against most of those biles. Most of the Zerg army is on the other side of the map, and Su decides to go home. That's a dangerous decision. Still a 100 supply lead. It's an absolute Zerg meat grinder over here, though. So many of those Zerg units just spawn and then instantly die. Medevac's out of energy. Oh, some nice biles. I think that seals the deal. Yeah. This is usually how you win games, Gumi. I have seen you win games in the strangest of ways 100 times. How do you like it now? I think GuMiho's like, but this isn't supposed to happen. This makes no sense. GuMiho is flat broke. He has no income. I mean, he's got mules over here, but these minerals are gonna fall very quickly. We're still talking 67 workers here for Sue. Ay. That's actually so sick. Picks the worst map that any Zerg could have picked. Goes up against the world-class Terran and then just plays 66 Roach Ravager with speed all in. Like, that's a weird build to play as well, but you know what you've got coming. That is so funny to me. Sue right now also knows that this is a game that is pretty much a done deal, so he doesn't really want to take any chances. Pushing up the ramp here is very difficult. He knows that Terran is going to be mining out. He knows that this base was taken early. Command center is going to be flying on over. Okay. I think you just push in. Imagine having a Viper or two. Nah. Ooh. I mean, this is about as much value as a Terran army is ever going to get. GG. Wow. Sue gets it done. The angry Zerg is back, man. That was so sick.